Hey everyone, and welcome. I am so incredibly excited to have you here for this explainer. Today, we're doing a really fascinating microanalysis of a specific piece of source material to explore the cultural framing of history. We're going to trace this brilliant arc of, well, expectation versus reality by looking at how a seemingly standard historical subject starts off in a way you would probably never expect. Because, history, it's not just a list of facts about what happened. It's about how it's told, who is telling it, and the entire cultural packaging that surrounds those facts. So let's jump right in. Okay, let's dive into this. The exact title of our source material is, get this, Andrew Jackson, 7th President of USA, Expansion of USA, 1829-1837, Bilal Concepts, Hindi/Urdu. Now, just hearing that, you immediately form this massive expectation, right? It totally sets you up for a grand, sweeping dive into 19th century American history. I mean, when you hear names like Andrew Jackson and heavy phrases like expansion of the USA, your brain instantly prepares for deep academic discussions. You're expecting frontier politics, constitutional debates, the raw mechanics of a rapidly growing nation, the whole shebang. The title basically promises a heavyweight breakdown of a super pivotal American epoch. You are for sure preparing yourself for a very traditional Western-centric history lesson. And that metadata immediately grounds us in a highly specific 8-year historical window, 1829 to 1837. By explicitly bookending the topic with these exact dates right up front, the source formally sets the stage for an epic Western history deep dive. It totally signals that we aren't just getting some broad, casual overview, We're getting a focused chronological journey through the expansion of the United States. Your brain is primed. It's ready for dates, facts, and standard textbook analysis. You're fully expecting to hear all about the policies, the treaties, and the territorial acquisitions that completely defined those 8 years. It creates this atmosphere of rigid historical scholarship, framing the subject with the exact kind of precision you'd expect sitting in a university lecture hall. Now, what's really interesting to notice here is the unique juxtaposition happening right inside the title itself. On one hand, we've got a deeply Western historical subject, a U.S. president and the territorial expansion of the United States. But look at the delivery method. This is entirely packaged for a Hindi and Urdu-speaking audience, brought to us by a channel called Bilal Concepts. We're literally taking a core piece of American history and explicitly filtering it for a South Asian demographic. It is such a fascinating intersection of subject matter and audience. It tells us right out of the gate that the delivery of these historical facts is going to cross major cultural boundaries. We aren't just learning about America, we're learning about it through a highly specific, non-Western linguistic and cultural conduit. So we have our Grand Western subject, and we finally dive into the actual content. But instead of jumping straight into tales of 1829 and Western expansion, we are greeted with this, Bismillah-ir-Rahman-ir-Rahim. It completely, and I mean completely, shifts the tone. It's a moment to just slow down. The expectation of immediate historical data and rapid-fire dates is gently replaced by a deeply traditional sacred invocation. Just imagine it. You're gearing up for this intense lecture on 19th century American political expansion, and the very first breath taken by the instructor isn't about presidents or borders or treaties. It's a spiritual grounding. It immediately recontextualizes everything we're about to hear, moving us out of the secular realm of Western historical facts and right into a space of traditional reverence. So, absolutely crucial point here. We need to understand what this actually means in context. Bismillah is the traditional Islamic phrase meaning, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. It's incredibly common to use this phrase before starting a significant task, especially an educational endeavor, to seek blessing, guidance, and clarity of thought. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates how global history is actually consumed in the real world. It's not just some sterile textbook perfectly preserved in a vacuum. No, it is actively filtered through the deeply specific cultural, linguistic, and religious lens of the local speaker. The American presidency is quite literally being introduced through the lens of Islamic tradition. It's this beautiful, totally authentic merging of worlds that just goes to show how history becomes localized when it spreads across the globe. But what follows this incredibly sacred invocation is perfectly universally human. The very next word in the transcript is simply I absolutely love this. It's so great. We go from this grand historical title about the expansion of an entire nation to a profound religious opening straight into a universal filler word. It just goes to show that, regardless of the weight of the history or the solemnity of the introduction, the speaker takes a highly relatable, purely human pause to gather their thoughts before diving into the facts. It brings the whole grand narrative right back down to a person simply sitting down in front of a microphone to teach a lesson. It really reminds us of the human element behind literally every piece of media we consume. That single just cuts through the academia and the solemnity, grounding the entire experience. Which brings us to the core of our explainer today. How does the cultural background of a narrator actually shape the way we absorb history? Really think about it for a second. The packaging matters immensely, from the choice of language, Hindi and Urdu, to the religious invocations seeking blessing on the lesson, right down to those simple, totally relatable human pauses. All of it transforms our experience of the historical facts. It reminds us that history is never just raw data. It's always a story being told by someone from somewhere. The medium and the messenger inevitably leave their fingerprints all over the message. So the next time you sit down to learn about the past, I want you to ask yourself, whose lens are you looking through? And how is that exact lens changing the story?